Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever it is for you. Welcome back to a Division 2 video. Today we're going over my automatic rifle build. Yes, the rifles are automatic in the Division right now. Not all of them, but most of them. And this combination is just godly. This rifle just doesn't move. It is a straight up laser beam and packs a big punch. Doesn't matter from what range, you can beam everybody down. This build is not built around modifiers. You can use modifiers on this build, but this build has been built without modifiers in mind. So don't worry if you don't like the modifiers, if you don't want to play with the modifiers active that was introduced with Seasons 2.0, this build will still help you out. And all of the gameplay that you see right now is without any modifiers active. Still shredding through enemies and of course enjoying this awesome laser beam as a rifle. I will have some more rifles for you. There are a bunch you can use. There are a bunch that will work very well with this build. But I will show you why I am using this particular rifle. This synergy with the rifle and the build is godly and you wanna test this out. Of course, these are all build templates. This is my playstyle, but believe me, if you copy this, you're gonna have a lot of fun. Without further ado, let's dive right into the build breakdown. Enough intro, enough gameplay. And starting with our specialization, what are we using? We're using the TAC 50 rifle, of course, that sharpshooter specialization. And why? This will give us a little bit more stability and target acquisition whenever we use an MR of a rifle. And especially now with those automatic rifles, you definitely want to go for sharpshooter. It gives you a lot more control over your weapon. And then of course, for the weapons that we're using, we are using the SIG 716 CQB. This is, in my humble opinion, hands down the best rifle to go for. It is a little bit lower in the RPM versus other rifles, but that base damage and just no movement on this weapon whatsoever makes this gun hands down the best rifle to use. You can use a bunch of other rifles 100%, like the lightweight M4 I have as my secondary, you know, bringing back those old school Division vibes. Yes, the lightweight M4 is automatic again, and don't worry, I got a beautiful build for you with that lightweight as well. But you can go for a bunch of other rifles, but the SIG 716 CQB or the normal SIG 716 would be hands down the one to go for. And why? It's all about the bullet spread and it's all about the recoil that these weapons have. And that brings us to the newest segment within the build videos, and I hope y'all like it, and this is going to be the recoil pattern. Most guns are pretty easy to control, but I just want to show you the difference in recoil patterns. Whatever you like to use within the rifles, I want to show you a couple of them that are, in my opinion, the best auto rifles to be using on these builds. But you're gonna notice why I am using the SIG 716. The sheer group up of the bullets, the sheer kickback is almost non-existent versus the other weapons, as you can see in the background. All of these tests have done on controller. All of these tests is without trying to hold the recoil, without trying to do anything. I'm just aiming in, holding my fire button, and we will see what happens. And as you can see, every rifle here has an insane kickback. Again, it's pretty easy to control because most of them go straight up. But look at that SIG 716. All the bullets are group up, there is no kickback whatsoever, and this is what makes the SIG 716 the goated rifle to be using on any automatic rifle build. Hands down, test it out, Try it out, but believe me that 6716 CQB is gonna be your next love. And especially if you wanna use your rifles on a little longer distance as well. Very strange to say, but now that the auto rifles are here, it's a little bit harder to shoot people in a distance with the automatic versions of the rifle. But with that 6716, you don't have to worry. The weapon almost never moves, and it doesn't matter how far those enemies are away from you, you will beam them down. Then for my secondary, I went for the lightweight M4. Great weapon. It's more of nostalgia that comes back with this for Division 1. But again, you can use whatever you like. I'm only using the 6716, so what I would recommend you to do is go for your secondary and your pistol weapon that you do not have proficient yet. It won't go as fast as your number one weapon, but you will still get some free XP towards your progression, and that saves you some materials and or duplicates. And now let's jump over to the overview of the build. I know y'all have been excited to see this, and this is it. Yes, almost fully high-end build. We're not going into the gear sets, or at least not yet. Don't worry, I got a video for you coming on that. But I like this setup the most, this high-end build or high-end-ish build, because of course we're running around with the Memento. Starting with the 3 pieces of Swiadoka. Why the 3 pieces of Swiadoka? This gives us 15% magazine size, 20% rifle damage, and 30% weapon handling. We tested out a bunch of different versions and a bunch of different ways to play this, and I feel like that you kinda wanna go for that third piece of Swiadoka. We will be losing 1% crit damage if you go for 3 pieces of Swiadoka, but you will gain 15% weapon handling, and that is a little bit more important, especially on your rifle build. And it's again just 1% critical hit damage that we will be losing if you add those 3 pieces. Everything will be towards crit chance and crit damage on every single piece. So Swiadoka mask, crit chance, crit damage mod on there. Swiadoka holster, weapon damage, crit chance, and of course the gloves. Weapon damage, critical hit damage, crit chance. And now you will probably be wondering, but why, Prime? Why are you not using the Eagle Grasps, the named gloves of Swiadoka? Because those will give you an extra 15% weapon handling on top of that. That was our first setup of the build. We used the Eagle's Grabs before, and then we only used 2 Swiadoka pieces. And next to that we used a Grupo holster. But like I just explained, that will give us 15% weapon handling and will then give us 13% critical hit damage. We need to have that crit chance rolled on these gloves, so the critical hit damage will then be removed for 15% weapon handling. We lose 1% critical hit damage because now we don't have the weapon handling on our gloves, but 12% critical hit damage, where Grupo gives you 13, so that is the loss of 1% critical hit damage. But because we're running now with 3 pieces of Swiadoka, we're gaining a 30% weapon handling instead of the 15% that are on the gloves. So the trade-off is 1% critical hit damage versus 15% weapon handling. I think that choice is easily made. Then we're going over to the knee pads. Of course, we're going for the Fox sprayers. Why? Because this will give us an extra rifle damage. We're running around with a rifle build, and of course that extra damage you target out of cover on there. We went for a Saska chest piece to get a little bit more extra critical hit chance in, of course. It is been nerfed a little bit. It is brought down to 8% critical hit chance instead of 10% critical hit chance. Again, just like everything else, we rolled it full reds with the critical hit damage, the critical hit chance, and the critical hit damage mod. And then, of course, we went for Obliterate. Critical hits increase total weapon damage by 1% for 10 seconds, stacks up 20 times. And you would think, like, why Obliterate? Will that work with rifles? Yes, sir. It works wonders with rifles. It is even better than Spotter. Yes, Spotter you will get instantly, but over the long run you will do more damage with your Seska Obliterate than your Seska Spotter. Of course, we have our backpack, the Memento. Everybody knows the Memento. Why are we using this? Because this will give us a little bit extra survivability throughout that extra armor core, not losing any damage because we're gaining that extra weapon damage core as well. We went for 6% critical hit mod on there. And then, of course, the kill confirmed will give us that extra 30% weapon damage, 30% skill efficiency, and 3% army generation after we pick up 30 stacks. And every stack that we pick up will give us a 10-second boost of 10% bonus armor, 5% skill efficiency, and 30% weapon damage for every trophy we pick up. And that's pretty much it for the overview of the build. And of course, we have our skills. We have the Revive Hive. You know, you still go down, especially if you're using modifiers. This build can be used with or without modifiers, like I said in the intro. But of course, if you're solo, most of the times you kind of always run around with your Revive Hive. And I went for Shield to give us a little bit more survivability whenever you are in front of a door, opening up your SIG to take everybody out. That shield comes in clutch as well. The stats. What you want to hunt down is 58% crit chance, then a 146% crit damage. And with the Seasons 2.0, the modifiers have been introduced to the game. It will be on your shoulder on Isaac. If we open it up, you will see you can activate it or deactivate it at any given time, except if you are in combat. So if you don't like the modifier, or if you like the modifier, you can activate or deactivate it at any time. It goes pretty fast, we can activate it, and we can instantly deactivate it as well if you don't like it. It's not like resetting your map, it doesn't take 10 to 15 seconds to do so. So if we activate it, you will see the modification pop up, and we will have an extra damage output by only activating this Seasons 2.0 modifying system. This will give us on the short distance 20% amplified damage, 35% amplified on the mid-range, and on the long range it will be 50% amplified damage. You will be so incredibly strong. And then of course we will have our active modifiers. I don't have one active right now because I'm working towards getting all out. All Out will work wonders on this build, and I'm not really a fan of Primetime and or Reversal on this build then of course, so I just kept the active modifier off. For the passive modifiers, I chose to go for 2 close range ones, and that will be Drawback, giving us 50% of our headshot damage in weapon handling while enemies are in short range. And Impatient is also a short range passive modifier, and this will give us 30% rate of fire and reload speed within the short range, but our standard magazine size is reduced to 50%. So because our magazine size is pretty big on the SIG CQB, we can get away with activating this, and you will reach around 34 bullets in the mag. Getting close to the people, getting that rate of fire in, and then of course getting that extra weapon handling kicked in, you can just beam people down. And then to put the cherry on top, we are using Persistence. Because we like to be in short range with this setup, we will gain that extra 20% movement speed. Thinking about the Lady Death, same buff. When you take somebody out in a short range, you will get that 20% movement speed, and this feels great. You're just zooming over the map with a rifle build, getting more RPMs in the close range while getting even more weapon handling. It is a great combination if you of course want to activate this. And that's why I kept it until the end of the video. Everything before this is all without the modifiers, as you saw. most of the gameplay that you saw is without the modifiers as well, because I know there is still a 50-50 in the community if you like it or not. So I'm giving you a build that is viable for both. But when I activate the modifiers, and it's fun to do so, I always activate drawback, impatient, and then persistence. And that's pretty much it for the video of today. Again, the overview of the build. You can take a screenshot all you like. It was a little longer video because I wanted to explain a few things and still give you a build that you don't need to have the modifiers active. Let me know in the comments down below if you're playing with or without modifiers, and are you playing with the same setup. Test it out within the modifiers, and of course let me know what type of combination of modifiers you like. And that's it for today. Thank you very much for sticking until the end. Like the video if you liked the video or helped you out in any way or form. And of course, if you're new here and or you want to be updated by the Division 2, make sure to hit that subscribe button as well. And I will see you in the next one. Pure Prime out.